Welcome to Being Extraordinary with Akasha Awaken. Here we awaken the Akash to the non-physical reality that stores ancient wisdom and magic for us all. This podcast is dedicated to the stories, the knowledge, and the people who have found a way to tap into this knowledge and bring it into our physical reality, fully allowing themselves to embrace our true and extraordinary nature, and hopefully inspiring you to do the same. Okay, welcome back to Being Extraordinary. It has been a hell of a long time, but we're back. I do have Rachel back with us today, and this podcast episode I'm very excited about because it was just a conversation that you and I were having, and I remember, I think I was listening to your voice notes, right? I think they were voice notes, and I was like just doing other things. And whenever you were explaining some of the epiphanies that you'd had, I was like immediately snapped out of what I was doing. And I was like, this is profound. Like everybody needs to hear about this, because I do feel like we're at a junction where it's very relevant, very relevant. So basically, Rachel, I would love if you told the story about how you came to this conclusion and kind of the teaching that you were given, and let's hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me back.
Anytime,
Appreciate you allowing me to use my throat chakra.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, I had these epiphanies and I was like, holy shit, like, of course I got to tell Kayla these things. And I went on this very long voice memo rant with you, but it stemmed from the winter solstice meditation that we did in Patreon, which you also are offering that to other people, correct? Are you still offering it?
Yeah, I sent it out because I felt like some people in the group had really great moments, and I was like, I think a lot of people don't know what to do on the solstices, and sometimes I don't either. So when that meditation came through so loud for me, I was like, people are called to this, then let's have them do it. So it is available if people want to do it for themselves.
And I highly recommend that, because this is where these epiphanies came from. So in the meditation, you asked us to go to our beautiful space, and my beautiful space turned into what looked like Pandora from the movie Avatars. And it actually even trickled into the Akashic records with me, which has never happened to me before. Mm-hmm. So I was like, holy shit, what's happening? So I am telling you this part, and you're like, holy shit, this card popped out of my deck and it was Pandora's gift. So then I go into what that card meant, and I'm like, well, wait, I've never done the walk on the wild side. I wonder if I would have gotten Pandora to work with. So that prompted me to go into the records and call forth Pandora. And when I did that, she showed me some shit.
That place is so powerful to connect with like deity. I didn't know that because, like we're both like the Akashic records are these things that really like bloom in front of you. They start off with like, you can go to this section of the library, but then as you like build your rapport with it, it's just like, frick, the opportunities are endless. So that's amazing.
I've never entered to actually work with a deity ever. This was the first time. But there were these like little breadcrumbs that got me to that point. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I followed them. But what Pandora showed me, like, completely reframed the way that I think of hope and what hope is. Mm. Because she showed me that when she let the things out of her jar or box, whatever version of it you resonate with,
and her box was, what was her box? Her box was holding evils, or what was it?
So Zeus gave her this jar. It later turned into a box as I guess it evolved. And it held the evils of the world, but he didn't tell her what was in it. And he said, don't open it. But she was like the first, she's compared to Eve. So she was the first like human woman, but each god gave her a gift. And that's why she's the all bringer of gifts, because each different god gave her a gift. But with that, they gave her curiosity, and her curiosity was like, well, what the fuck is in the box? So she opened the box and she let out all these evils, sickness,
Oh my God, this reminds me
all
of
of
the story of
what
Adam and Eve too, when Eve eats from the tree of knowledge. It's the same thing, but in Rome or Greek or Roman gods, right?
yes,
Oh my
it is
God.
the thing. But
Perfect.
yeah, she let the evils out into the world. However, what she showed me was there was one evil left in the box, and that was hope. So my understanding of what I thought hope was, I'm like, how the fuck is that an evil?
Mm-hmm.
And she showed me. She showed me why this was an evil. Um, Basically, hope itself will never actually change anything. So what she was showing me was examples that I would resonate with. So she would show me, if you know an addict that is addicted to XYZ, you can hope all day long that that addict gets off of XYZ. But if that person is not actively putting action towards getting off of XYZ, your hope really does not mean shit at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's nothing more than a word.
Mm-hmm. God, that's true. And you can um lie to yourself about that feeling for your entire life, right? And I don't want to say waste, but funnel a bunch of energy into a person hooked on hope that never manifests, right? Like, that's an exhausting place to be, in all honesty, when I think about it.
She showed me that hope at that point is an excuse or like some type of coping mechanism. So like if you're in a shitty relationship and hope that one day your partner starts to treat you right, but your partner's not actually doing anything to actively show you that they're going to treat you right, but you're not doing anything to leave that toxic relationship, then your hope is literally just an excuse or a coping mechanism for your situation.
Mm-hmm. And it just feels like a blinder, right? Let's speak, I can't see anything. Like, it's going well, it's gonna change.
Yeah. Yep. She also showed me that hope is like a pity party. And
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to self-pity, it's probably the worst thing to have. Um, when I was in there, she was showing me my partner's mother had breast cancer. And through that process, I've seen a lot of slogans have the word hope in it, but hope was not the reason she beat breast cancer. She physically, emotionally, spiritually fought. She kept her mind and thought strong in her faith. She was confident in her doctors and treatments. She was determined to live. If she'd only hoped to beat the cancer and didn't actively take actions that empowered that fight, I don't know if she would have been able to beat the cancer.
Ooh.
And I know people every day that are like in that same position with cancer itself, and they do fight and they don't win that fight. But I can bet that at the end of the fight, at the end of their journey, they were at peace and they still had their faith and they knew that they were going to this better place, which when I think of that, I think of they still had faith regardless of the outcome of that situation.
Wow. This is so interesting. And it does, in some ways, when you say hope, it's like you put the authority or the outcome in something outside of yourself.
So I looked up the definition of what hope actually meant, and it's just a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. So I'm thinking, like, if anybody that thinks about expectation, like, we really shouldn't fucking have them at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And our desire is great, but if you're not putting forth any active, like, real action towards your desires, then, like I said, that hope is not doing shit for you.
No.
It's keeping you stagnant. It just gave me a whole nother perspective on the word, and her showing me that it was evil, and me not understanding that and having to deprogram myself and think of, well, what can I put in place of that word? So then I'm watching a show. It was The Bear, on, I think it's Hulu. And they wanted this woman to come in as a project manager. And the chef was like, what do you think? And she's like, I'm still going to think on it. I'm leaving today. I'm still going to think on it. And she said, I am choosing to believe that she'll come back. And like, just hearing that, like, she didn't say, I hope you come back. She said, I'm choosing to believe that she'll come back. So just reframing the way you speak things, it just feels like a different vibration. It feels like a higher vibration.
Yeah.
So we're talking, I'm telling you that she's showing me the word faith. And faith to me is like determination, confidence, power. And I have faith that something will happen. It feels a lot different than I hope this happens.
Yeah. Like faith feels like powerful. It feels like I'm commanding, or I'm saying, or I'm initiating this, where hope is kind of like, yeah, I can see it.
So the definition of faith is complete trust or confidence in someone or something. So if you even just look at the two words in their definitions, complete trust or confidence versus feeling of expectation and desire. Like it's so different.
It is so different. And then you brought this up to me at a time where I had just seen something that Jim Carrey had said. So it just felt like, I have two things to say about that. Number one, Jim Carrey talks about this exact thing in one of his speeches. And he says that like hope is a beggar, and like belief or faith or whatever he uses is like, just jumps right over the problem. This problem doesn't exist because I have complete, like just using your definition, complete trust in this process. I'm not afraid. Right. And it feels to me, so I read something once that like the universe is really the person not in control, but the universe is really what drives us all the time. And when it has an agenda, the world will know about it. And I really feel like, based on you receiving this nudge, that Pandora's card dropping out of the deck that I never use, and it just fell out, and I was like, oh, weird. And then seeing that as well on top of your revelations, it's like the universe was like, people need to know about this. Like I'm guessing there's a lot of people holding out for hope and not enough people freaking doing anything about it, or having trust in the process. Like, what do you think about that? Like, why do you think it's relevant right now? Because it feels like it wants to be here.
Well, we just got to look at the state of the world. When you sent me the video of Jim Carrey, and he said hope is a beggar, and I think he says something about hope. Did he say hope leaps over the fire and faith? He actually used those same two words.
Yeah, I think he does.
Over the fire and faith walks through the fire. Is that how
he said? Something like that, yeah.
Said it that way. But when you sent me that video, I was like, holy shit. Like, yes, it's just like the beggar on the side of the street. The beggar comes out every day hoping that somebody's going to fucking save them that day, but they're not actually doing anything productive to get out of the situation that they're in. And I remember thinking, if that person was standing out there in faith, that I guarantee you, like, opportunities, people would come. Like, if they stood out there in faith, different things would attract to them, even if it's just an idea, even if it's just an opportunity to get them out of the position that they're in. But they stand out there and hope that one day, somehow, things are going to get better. Yeah. I think that the message is important now because the state of the world that we live in right now. And we were just talking about how many homeless people there are and how we're really all just one fucking paycheck away from being in that same position.
Mm-hmm.
But when she was giving me that word faith, I felt like inspired and motivated. And it gives you confidence. It gives you determination. Like if you don't fucking like something, you are in, like, I felt like I was in complete control of
Yes.
my life more than I've ever felt.
Wow. That's so true. And you're making me think of like situations in my life too, where I've felt kind of, yeah, like a beggar, like just really hoping that things are going to work out. And every time I feel like I'm backed into a corner, I am suddenly like, I feel like a badger or something. It's like, okay, I have to do something crazy to get out of this corner. And whenever I take that initiative, I always get myself out, no matter how scary it is. And I do like, it's making me think of something, and I'm just going to voice it. I don't know if it fits, but sometimes I think people look at people who left their jobs or started a business or, did all these things, and they think things like, oh, that person's lucky. I've had people say to me like literally, and I almost can't even choke it out. Oh, people like you because you're pretty. They buy your sessions because you're pretty. And you're like, wow, that is so dismissive of how much trust and faith I had to put into my path. Like, it has not been easy. I am not lucky.
Right.
And
Right. I was just going to say, who's lucky? No,
yeah.
we took the walk through the fire.
Yeah.
At that time, I can't remember. We took that walk. Like that shit is not easy. We're not lucky. It's stressful at times, but you do have to continue to have faith and trust.
And if I didn't have that faith, I would have given up a long time ago.
Right. If we were just hoping to leave our jobs, probably would never happen.
And I think that's where people get stuck. I'm sure like I can feel it in my auric field sometimes where people are like, oh, it must be nice to be hiking at 10 a.m. like, or whatever it is. And it's like, I hope one day that could be me, or I hope one day that I can have a life. And it's like, hope is never going to get you there. Like, I'm just thinking about my stories and how hope versus faith played out. And it's like, and I say this to people now, you have to be convicted and extremely passionate about whatever it is you decide to pursue, because it is not for the faint of heart, and you gotta believe in it. And I think that's such a huge thing where people get stuck in life, not just in the leaving the jobs and starting a business, but
and maybe that's where maybe that's where we need to do better at showing people, because yes, like we're putting all of these good things on a highlight reel, you know what I mean? Like our walks, you know what I mean? Like we put all of the things that look like we're lucky, but like, what about that shit that where you're sitting here stressing because you don't have nothing on the books and you're like, what the fuck? Like,
oh God. Or taxes. Oh God.
Yeah,
like have fun with that shit. The system is set up to make you, well, okay, it sucks for everyone. It's the same taxes, but like, they do not want you to be an entrepreneur. Like they just tax the shit out of you, and you get your like big bill at the end and you're like, you're kind of like, I just don't even know. And you're kind of like, I'm just going to have faith because I came this far.
It makes me think, like, how can we put out the real in the raw? Because it's easy to show good things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know. I have often been curious about that, like because in my life, like when I do hit the hard spots, I typically don't want to give them a ton of attention because then they take up more space within myself. But yeah, how do we showcase, that aspect too? I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, because this shit's not, it has nothing to do with luck. And it definitely, I didn't get fired from my job hoping, and because that was a conscious decision that I made.
Mm-hmm.
And I always look back at that. Like it was not anything that had to do with like my work performance or anything like that. It was literally because I wouldn't be vaccinated. So I made that conscious decision. So yes, I say I was fired, but technically, like, did I quit because I didn't get vaccinated? You know what I mean? But I did that not because I was hoping that I'd be okay. Like, I truly had faith that I was going to be okay.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I think about like how programmed we are. We are so fucking programmed. And that is why people think that we're lucky. That is why people think, oh, they only buy your sessions because you're pretty. Like what the, like, first off, that's shallow. But anyways, like, we're programmed this way.
Mm-hmm.
So what she was showing me is like a lot of it was the deprogramming of certain things that we like. I never looked at hope as an evil ever.
No. When I was listening to the beginning of your voice notes, I was like, hope as an evil? Like, what? Where is this going? But yeah.
I never looked at it as an evil. But then she was showing me like our words and our thoughts are like huge contributors to the way that we manifest. So I think this is because like words can evoke emotions that we carry. Words influence our thoughts and actions. So that's why words we say are so powerful. Because our thoughts turn into actions, then ultimately that creates our reality. So she was basically showing me I need to deprogram from the lower frequency vibrational words and use higher vibrational words. And it looked like what she was showing me is that if I could do that, manifestations would come a hell of a fucking lot quicker. And I actually told you I was going to experiment with that. And you said, well, do you want to wait to do the podcast? And I'm like, no, because I already know that if I can deprogram and reframe and say these different words, I already know. She already showed me. You know what I mean? Like, that's faith. She already showed me. I'm not going to do it and hope that things are better.
I like that.
Yeah.
And when you were speaking about language and how we're programmed, I was like thinking, I'm like, okay, well, how does this disempowered state of programming look on a day-to-day basis? And I was thinking about, like, you know, before, this isn't about becoming an entrepreneur, but like, you know, when you're in work, you go to university and you hope that this education is going to get you that job where you receive the recognition and the pay. And then you work that job that you probably feel really mediocre about. And you know, you got to serve your time in hopes that like when you get to a certain age, you can retire and then be free, you know? Or you hope that you can just use that 2 weeks of vacation or whatever and go see the world. And, you know, our whole life, if you really think it, is structured on this idea that the next phase of life will be better. And my grandmother, I might have spoken about this before, but my grandmother had like such a terrible, terrible, terrible life. Like, from the moment she was born, just not good. And then got married to get away from her own birth family. She got married very, very young. She dropped out of school. She started having kids, worked a really just hardworking farm life. And then when she was probably like 40, she decided she wanted to finish high school and go do something for work. And she finished high school and she became a care aide. And she worked that. And I don't think she hated it, but I don't think it wasn't like she was like, I love
that wasn't her passion.
Yeah, she would. And then I remember her like buying books and movies and magazines, and she had this like Pandora's box of like fun things that she was going to do when she was retired. And she was just like praying for this day, that it was going to be, that's what all the suffering was for. And I kid you not, she got cancer when she was like right at the retirement age. And it was like a debilitating fight for like years. And she never got to retire. She passed away before that day came. And it's like, you know, hope is a fool. Hope tells you that something good is coming and something is going to save you or be the break in the negative chain of events of your life, but it's not coming.
Yeah, hope left her in She used it as a coping mechanism. She used it as an excuse of why she's not doing this shit from these books, magazines that she had up. It was using that as an excuse of why she's not doing this shit right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like when Pandora was showing me the word faith, that's when the feeling of control over myself, like that's when that feeling came of hope doesn't make you feel like you're in control. Like, I think I told you, like, that's just about as good as saying, I guess, like,
I'll try.
I try. Like, if there's no confidence, it's weak. It feels weak.
And it does feel like you give your power to the external. When you say, I have faith, you're like, no, I know I'm worthy.
Yes.
I didn't come to this lifetime to be stuck in a situation that doesn't feel right or good. And I mean, yeah, like it's so empowering. And I wonder, because you brought up cancer at the beginning of this episode, but it's like, I wonder if my grandmother had more faith that she might have had a better time with cancer. But regardless of what happened, she taught me an extremely valuable lesson. And honestly, what happened to her has been like a borderline a key motivator. Like, I'm not going to suffer through life because I don't know when it's going to end. So it probably in some ways was a gift to me to be like, I'm getting the hell out of a job that sucks the soul out of me.
Right. When I mentioned the cancer, I completely get that there are people that have that faith and have that determination and don't just lay down, and they actually do fight it and they still lose that battle. But like I said, I feel like at the end of that battle, like it's not, they still have the faith that where they're going is for a reason. They have the faith that what they went through was for a reason. So, but somebody that was just like, I hope I beat cancer. That's not how my partner's mother, like, I seen how strong she was, like mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I seen how strong she was. She didn't lay down. She had faith. No, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to live. And she had that trust in her doctors and in her treatments. And like, even when she was figuring out her treatment, she was intuitively doing that. Like, she had options. And it's like, if you're just hoping that what the doctor says is going to work, I don't know. There's deeper layers to that. Yeah. But that's how she showed it to me, because I think Pandora knew that would resonate with me.
Right.
Because that word is very often used when it comes to cancer.
And and I want to say, like, I'm not trying to be, like a conspiracy theorist or anything, but I was just talking. So you kind of wonder if there's this, government unit, like, I'm not saying the government, but a unit that exists in the world that does benefit from us feeling disempowered, and that they slap hope all over, cancer stuff because they want you to somewhat feel disempowered. And I only say that because if more people don't take the jobs that nobody wants, let's just use my grandma as a care aide, for example, like, that's a job that somebody needs to do, because it's a very important role that needs to be filled in our society. But like, it's not something I dream of,
Right.
So then it's like, people need to fill these roles in order for society to move. So is there an investment in keeping us debilitated and using this type of language? And I only say that because I was just this week, when I was in high school, and I remember this very clearly. There was somebody who came from the art school in Vancouver and came to our little town to kind of recruit people to go to art school. So he gave this big presentation, and he kind of shared, like, this is what you can do with your arts degree. And one of the things was like studying how marketing targets people. And he was basically telling us that they've studied every color known to man and what it makes somebody feel inside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is just what he said. I'm sure there's more to it, but he said the color red makes people hungry and the color yellow makes people uncomfortable. So they've put red and yellow on every multiple fast food chains. That's the colors they use because it makes you hungry, makes you uncomfortable. Get in, buy a lot of food, and get the heck out. And I mean, it's McDonald's, it's Wendy's, it's Burger King. I can't think of anything else.
When I was younger, I was a hostess at a chain restaurant, and it was always so cold in there. Like
Yeah.
winter, summer, it was cold, and I'm a cold person anyway. But I remember like asking the general manager one time, like, why is it always so cold in here? And she was like, you get people in and you get people out. Like if somebody's cold, they're not going to sit there for a long time. Everything. Yeah, there's definitely.
When I was at a restaurant too, it was a restaurant that was, well, a bar, I guess, restaurant and bar that was open until like 2 a.m. And when I was doing a closing shift, as soon as last call went out, they cranked the heat and it would make people uncomfortable and leave. So
yes,
even on this small of a scale, these marketing techniques exist.
absolutely.
Why would they not exist on a grander scale of keeping people in the places in which they're predictable? They're taking the roles, like we're very predictable when we're leaning on hope of a better day coming. We'll freaking do anything if we think there's a carrot at the end of that stick, right?
Absolutely.
Oh God. It's really
all
a lot
about
to think
survival.
about, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it's all about everybody's survival now. Like we're not in a good fucking place.
No.
And
we
like,
have to take our power back.
I was just having this conversation with one of my friends. What were we talking about? It was kind of like politicky. And I don't do politics, but basically what I was saying is, 50% of the United States is registered as independent, but we vote either Republican or Democratic. And it's like, what happened to that third party? Like if that 50% voted for that third party to get somebody with different views, different ideas up on the stage to even debate with one of the Republicans or Democrats, like what change could happen there? If everybody decided, you know what, fuck the school system and let's take our kids out of school and that crashes, what would happen? If everybody says, fuck the banking system, let's all go one day and get our money. They don't have the money to give everybody. Like I think that us as humans don't realize how fucking powerful and how much control we have.
Mm-hmm.
Or like fear. That's why I think we're programmed. That's why I think there's a bigger agenda, like what you're saying about like keeping us in the same spot. Because could you fucking imagine if all of us realized how powerful we were?
Mm-hmm.
You could overturn and burn shit to the fucking ground.
Yeah.
But they keep us in this state of fear. Oh, you need money because you got to pay your bills. Because if you don't pay your bills, then you're going to get sued and da 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 da. Like your kid has to go to school or you're going to end up in jail. Like there's so many different ways that we're programmed that just aren't correct. It's not right.
And in a lot of ways, they've also like isolated us from other people. And so that we don't realize that there's strength in numbers and we're not alone in the way that we're thinking, right? Because back before we had this kind of government structure, like we really lived in community. So, we raised children in community, we worked in community, and then all of a sudden the nuclear family comes in and you're just stuck with mom, dad, and a couple of kids, and you're doing it all on your own. And then it's like, we don't have that sense of community, not the same way. So like we often think like, well, what I'm thinking is really extreme. My neighbor doesn't think that. So if I start doing these things differently, everyone thinks I'm the weirdo. But like I have never personally met more people that are just done with the way things are going. And they're not people that are extremist or conspiracy theorists. I honestly just think that, the pandemic really highlighted a lot of the flaws in a lot of the systems, and people are like, wow, what are we even doing? Like
it definitely highlighted a lot of the flaws in a lot of the systems. And it's like I almost feel like the government sometimes tries to like mask that again, but it's too late. We've already seen it. You know what I mean? Like we're already awake to that. So you can't turn back the hands of time Like it's so different now. It's so different now. And more people that I talk to don't trust the government and go down the conspiracy theory. And look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I see a lot of truth to some of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't know. It's corrupt.
Yeah.
It's corrupt.
No,
But
it is. And it's like, I get it. I get how scary it is to acknowledge that the world might be trying to keep you where you are or perpetuate fear so that you continue to just move through things in a predictable or tax-paying way. It's scary to acknowledge that. But I mean, there's corruption in small spaces. Why would it not happen at the big,
on a bigger scale?
yeah. And it's not even about that, but it's like, what's that saying where you take a knife to like a sword fight sometimes? Like, I'm not saying we need to like fight the government, but it's like, I think what is being highlighted through Pandora and hope versus faith and taking your power back is it's like, there are these like titans that have even just the monopoly of all the resources in the world. And it's getting the difference between, the people and the higher class or the people that control all the resources in the world. It's just getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And we are feeling it down here. And I really believe that this is like a call or like a message to be like, okay, you just hoping that things are going to get better, or your government's going to save you, or your politicians are going to save you, or your retirement is going to save you, is like taking a knife to a sword fight with Goliath. Like, you have to learn to like take a better or bigger responsibility for the life that you're living, or the outcomes, or just even feeling more powerful. Like, who wants to be stressed about their next paycheck every month, or their retirement or their bonds, or if their kids are going to be able to go to college, or if they can if they can afford their healthcare? Like, who wants that?
Well, when Pandora was showing me hope left in her jar, her box, it was almost like I felt like what she was saying was, yes, like I fucked up. Like I let out all of these evils into the world, but like I also had so many other gifts. But now she's known for this particular situation where she did let all these evils out. But she had so many other gifts, and it's like she was kind of trying to show me, like, look at the other gifts. Don't look at like, yes, she gave me this lesson of hope, but like I need to go back in there with her, because I feel like she's like, yeah, I let out all this shit, but like there's still so much within me. And then with that being said, I felt like she was saying there's still so much up within you, even with all of these evils in the world. Like there's still so many gifts within you and everybody. And it's like, let's refocus, let's deprogram from all of the evils that I let out when I fucked up. Like I felt like she really did take accountability, but like she was also showing me, let's deprogram, reprogram, and let's look at these other gifts that are within us, within me.
And maybe it's not about focusing on corruption and the Goliath fight. Maybe it's just about like going within and being like, I want more than this. I want my gifts to thrive. Wow, that's a way better way to frame it.
And learning your control, like learning the control that you have. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know how else to say it more passionately. Like the words we speak, the shit we watch, the things we listen to, the information we take in, it all affects our reality.
Mm-hmm.
Even just the simple change of like when I see somebody say, hopefully, or I hope, it feels so different to me now. And I just want to be like, can you just say that you have faith? Like,
I choose to believe. Yeah.
I choose to believe. Like when I seen that shit that night, I was like, holy fuck. Like there are different ways of saying these things that make you feel more empowered.
And this whole conversation is reminding me, so this might be blasphemous, but if Pandora is kind of like the Greek or Roman version of Eve. This is a story that someone told me about Eve eating from the tree of knowledge and unleashing sin upon humanity, which is a parallel. And it just really fits in with what you're saying. That they were like Adam and Eve were living in the Garden of Eden and everything was like love and bliss and euphoria. And it was just really perfect. And Eve kind of is like, well, is there more? Is there other things I could do? Like, I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to feel something because eventually love, peace, euphoria, if it's your normal, it becomes kind of like boring maybe. So she approaches the tree of knowledge because she wants to grow. She wants more. She wants wisdom. She wants more experiences. And basically the deal was like, okay, well, if you want to grow, it can't always be peace, love, euphoria, because what are you going to learn? So you're going to have to introduce sin or evil into humanity in order for you to face situations in which you need to meet your soul self and overcome and persevere and become powerful. And only then will you realize what's really within you, because you could navigate these really tumultuous, difficult waters. So then it's kind of like if Pandora brought evil or whatever into humanity, it's like, is it actually something bad, or is it where you really meet yourself and see what you're really capable of? Because if we were in the Garden of Eden, we would never have to be courageous.
There'd be no evolution.
There's no evolution, if we wouldn't have to meet danger or fear and see how strong we are or what we're passionate about, because everything just kind of came on a silver platter, right? So maybe all these like frustrations, it's like we just missed the point, we've just accepted the pain of not knowing ourselves and like moving through things that don't align with our spirit. And maybe this is like Pandora's wake-up call to be like, hey, like you can do this.
I felt that when I was working with her. I'm definitely going to go back in and see, because there was more to the message, I'm sure, but she was definitely focusing on the hope and getting me. I think she was kind of showing me the process of the deprogramming of certain words and the process and how we can do that, or how I can do that.
Yeah, what does it
but
look
I
like?
I did look into what hope actually meant in the Bible. Because when I'm in there working with someone's higher self or a deity, anything, if I'm in there working with someone, it does take me on these journeys. So I felt like I needed to see what hope meant in the Bible. And really, it's commonly used as like a wish in the Bible, but it says its strength is the strength of the person's desire. But in the Bible, hope is the confident expectation of what God has promised, and its strength is in his faithfulness. So hope's strength is in the faithfulness. And
so kind of like, again, the savior complex and like.
But if we look at whether we call God, source, creator, if we all feel like we're a slice of this higher consciousness, then the strength of our hope is only in the faithfulness that we have in ourselves.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
like ourselves as part of
God, part of the creator, part of the universe. Oh, it's sometimes like
all the stories in the Bible as a metaphor. Like that's how I look at them. I don't put faith into the fact that these things might have really happened. I really do feel like they're all metaphors for teaching points. Like that's my personal opinion. Like I wish someone somewhere out there would like I want to be deprogrammed from what I was taught of the Bible and go back with fresh eyes, fresh mind, and look at these different stories and see what would come, what teachings would come from it. Because I don't think it's how it's being taught now. You know what I mean? I think that they're metaphors. But when I seen that that's what hope meant in the Bible, I was like, well, if we're all part of this creator source God, then really the strength of our hope is in the faithfulness that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought it was interesting that even those words lined up, the
Yeah,
hope and faith.
that's so fascinating. And like how did she show you, was there any like tips that she gave you on how to like pay more attention to like your disempowering language and begin to reprogram it? Is it just like the swapping of words, or what did she kind of show you?
Well, it's the swapping of words, but I think that you have to come to an understanding, and obviously that's going to be different for everybody, but I think you have to come to an understanding of your own. When you say a word, how does that word make you feel? Now, is there any other word that you could say that makes you feel more empowered, more in control, more determined, more confident, more motivated, more inspired? And that's how she made me feel, like just paying attention and not just going off of the programming that we all have. How does it make you feel to say these things? That was the biggest part. And then she took me on a journey of, well, if I show you this, what does it make you feel? If I show you that, what does it make you feel? And it all came to, damn, hope really is fucking evil. It will really leave you in a position where you are stagnant and you're not taking any real productive action to get to where you want to go. Like, it's weak, it's uncertain. Like I said, it
Ooh.
feels like just saying, I guess I'll try.
And
Like,
when you just said that, I seen a picture like in my brain of like, somebody not like planting a crop, and they didn't even like plant the seeds or water it or weed it. And they're just like praying like, okay, dear God, like I need this crop to manifest. When like, if you actually just like planted the seeds, like tilled the field, made it, had water, sun, and like you just had faith and like love for that
yep,
crop, of course it's going to bloom. But if you're just like debilitated and praying for a miracle or waiting for a miracle, like of course nothing's going to grow. And I think that is a metaphor for our lives, right? So interesting. I was thinking of something else too. Oh yeah. So I feel like something else that's becoming, or it's been coming into my awareness that really matches this, is like more now than ever. I've heard from, I've just felt this call to be present and intentional. And like, that's not going to hit, like for the listeners, it's not going to hit you until it hits you. It just sounds really generic. But, there's been things like, yeah, it's we want to panic. This world isn't what we knew it to be. We are maybe one paycheck away from being naked on the street. Like, it's frightening. Things are expensive. People had bills, like laid off, all these things. But like in the present moment, everything that you need is always met. So
yep,
like your fears really exist in studying the past and trying to predict the future. So if you
yes,
just live in the present moment, like your needs are met. And then when you're making choices, it's not about, oh, is this right or wrong or good or bad? It's like, how does this, like, yeah, how does it feel? What's the intention behind it? Because people ask me a lot about money. Like people ask me in my sessions, it's like money, love, and purpose. Like that's what the big three are for like everybody, right? So when people ask me about money, it's like, should I be saving? Restriction only creates more restriction.
right,
So probably not. Should you be spending like a mad person? No, because you're spending money and you're probably just trying to sabotage yourself to get rid of it because you're not used to having it. You're supposed to just have this resource that represents your energy because you had to give yourself away basically to get that. And you just decide where you want to spend it. And obviously we have to pay for our bills and be responsible. But when you're, spending leisurely, just choose because you want to, because it feels good. Don't just like
the way it feels.
don't just go to Mexico because that's what everyone does. Like maybe you want to go to Scotland, like, just be present with yourself. What does it feel like? What feels empowering? What feels scary? What feels this? And then you can like, your soul will tell you what's for you
Absolutely.
and what's not for you. But most of us are so busy and living on programming, like you said, that we just don't know what's real for us, what feels light, what feels heavy, what feels
We don't know how to
empowering,
be
what feels
present
disempowering. Yeah,
moment
happy.
to even feel those things. My son's going on a cruise in a week. Yeah. And with all of this, these TikTok videos, the stay out of the ocean don't want us there, da da da. Like people have tried, even in my own life, have tried to like project their fears onto me. Like, how do you feel about that with everything going on in the ocean? Your son, he's going with his dad and that side of the family. And it's like, that's an experience that I can't give him right now. And I have faith that he's going to go and have the time of his life. Like, I'm not going to let some submersible that got lost in the ocean stop that, or the whales that are like taking down boats. And like, I'm not gonna let those things scare me into not letting my son experience a cruise in a different environment from where we're at.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not gonna do that.
exactly. And
And that's a lot. I think our programming is people projecting their fears onto us. That's all part of programming too.
100%. And like, how many
But
of our fears are just projections from someone or somewhere else?
if we just sat with ourselves in the present moment and felt into, okay, so how do I feel about my son going on this cruise? I feel fucking excited in my body. Okay, he's gonna go. So I don't give a shit if you're scared that the ocean's gonna take everybody out. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let my son go on the cruise. Like, I think that like whenever that fear does creep into you, I think that if you just really sit with what was just said to me, how do I feel about it? How does my body feel about it? And be in that present moment, that it'd be a hell of a lot easier to live fucking life that way. Like, we
Yes.
so hard for ourselves.
It's so hard and it's such a big deal. So this is something again that's been happening to me. But like I love to, okay, this is, I hate to admit this about myself, but I love to run away from things. I don't like to get like stuck. And I do get susceptible to sometimes like the presence that people put online of them traveling, or they have this kind of house, or they live on the lakefront. And I'm like, I want to be lakefront. Like, I want these things. And I'm like, am I settling? Like, I'll ask myself stupid things like this. And it's like very dumb. I'm aware of it. But I've started to get like really present with myself. And I'm saying like, I'll sit in my exact moment. I will look around at the things that are around me, the people, my backyard, the flowers that are out there. And I will sit there with like present eyes.
Yep.
And I'm like, holy shit, this is beautiful. Like if I was to look back on my life, I would be like, I was so fortunate to have fun people around me, people that love me, this home that's like filled with plants and like it's painted all the colors I like. It's filled with books and music and art. Like, what else does a girl want? Like,
Yeah, like, do you think that on anybody's deathbed, they thought about that time that they were 20 minutes late to work because of a traffic jam? Nobody's thinking about that. But yet, when that happens to somebody in the morning, it ruins their whole fucking day.
this is also
You know
coming
what
to awareness. So weird. Yeah.
I don't know. There's definitely lessons in being in the present moment.
Oh, and it just immediately diminishes your fear because last
Yeah.
year in 2022, I was not well. Like I just had so much change in my life, unexpected, shocking, expenses. Like it was not a good time for me. And the only way I made it through was like being extremely present and being like, well, today this problem doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter moving forward. And now that we're like so much time has elapsed, I look back and I'm like, wow, it doesn't matter right now either. So why did I spend that whole year debilitatingly depressed, and not the whole year, but a lot of it. And
Right.
then it doesn't matter now. But just like
And
Pandora, just like Eve, those hard moments teach us a lot about who we are. So I hated that feeling. And I met myself. We went
yeah.
through like so many journeys to get to the core of who I was. So even that hardship was a gift in the end, but it could have been a gift I received faster if I would have just been like, things aren't that bad. Like you're present, your needs are met.
And I think that that's another big thing. Like, we're all just so worried about everything. And when you're sitting in that moment of being present, like you're not sitting in that moment of, oh, I hope yesterday was okay and I hope tomorrow's okay. It's almost like you do have that faith and that trust and that confidence in that moment, in that present moment. Like you're not worried about yesterday, you're not worried about tomorrow. So it's like you are sitting in faith of everything's okay and it's going to be okay. And even in those moments of like where life sucks, like I'm a like being a victim triggers the fuck out of me. When I'm talking to somebody and they're being a victim, it triggers the fuck out of me. I understand that you can have your feelings and please sit with those feelings, but like explore those feelings. Don't just sit with them, explore them and then let that shit go. Because even in these bad moments, it's like not the fucking end of the world. Like it's really okay. It's gonna be okay. And I'm not saying like you can't be frustrated and sad and grieve. I'm not saying any of that. But like, if you really sit there in the present moment and you think about, okay, I'm still breathing. Like that's enough.
Yeah, exactly. And if you actually assess those moments of like struggle, it's like you have to be again present with yourself enough to admit this, but whenever you've been backed into a corner, did you not get out of it? You're still here.
Yes.
Every hurdle you've ever experienced, you navigated, and there was probably something that surprised you that got you out of it.
Yep. That got me when I did lose my job. And like that, like I said, that's just not lucky and it is tough. So there were certain times where I'm like, well, what the fuck am I going to do? But it wasn't a, what the fuck am I going to do? It was like a brainstorming, like, what can I do? And that's where it's different of, oh my God, what am I going to do? No, like be fucking proactive in that shit. There are tons of things that you can do. And I thought about like, I have definitely been in a full-time job in a worse condition than I am now. Like if I did it with a full-time job, it's going to be oh fucking K. Like I'm going to get through it.
It makes no sense, right? Like when I was working like employed somewhere, I technically on paper made more money, but I was so depressed and like sad. Like I don't know where it went, but I didn't have it. Like I literally was a 27-year-old woman who couldn't afford to buy pizza. I don't even have kids. Like it was just for me, like one pizza. I couldn't afford it. Like my partner and I couldn't buy takeout. We couldn't go on dates. We couldn't do anything. And I technically at that time made more money than I do now and had less bills.
Well, so, and it's like people that are in like, obviously both of us are run our own businesses, entrepreneurs, but like even people that are in those jobs where they're fucking miserable and they don't have money. Like first off, you're not alone. Everybody I'm talking to is in, like, it is the state of the world that we're in right now.
Yeah.
They told us, oh, go to college, go get your degrees and everything will be okay. And they fucking lied because now we are all in the same boat, whether you got a degree or you don't got a degree or whatever, we're all in the same boat. We all have debt. We are all in this place of, some of us are fearful for our kids' tomorrows, but like, I think that even if you're in that job and you're like, what am I going to do? Think about what the fuck you can do. Because I guarantee you that if you can come up with an idea or a passion, or even if it's just moving from the miserable job to another job, and it's something that's more aligned with you, I guarantee you, you're going to see that your money does get a little better. You definitely are fucking happier.
And you know what? I swear to God, there's a correlation between your happiness and how much money you have, even if it's not measurable logically on paper. Because when I left my official job as contracted by the government, I went back, like I started the Akashic business and I went back and I started as a server, which was like a hard decision to make. And then I ended up managing a restaurant. But it's like they get paid the same because one of you gets tips, one of you doesn't, right? So I took a massive pay cut, but the stress, oh, so much lighter. There was community, there was fun, and I had more money. I was able to buy pizza. We could go on a date, and I technically made less money, but my happiness was there. And then the universe conspires for you when you like feel good. You know,
and I was going to say, even if you don't have the more money, there is something that makes you more comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's
where
true.
You're not stressing out. Because don't get me wrong, there's been times where I definitely have less money than I had when I was working. Like the constant, coming in of income of money, but like I'm still okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still happy. Like, how much fucking time did I waste stressing out about a bill when now it's like, yeah, I get less money. My bills are paid. Might not have a lot of extra right now, but I have faith that one day I will have it. But right now I don't have a lot of extra money to spend, but it's like, you get to this point where you're okay with that. Like, it doesn't even feel like, it's like your joy and your happiness trumps, oh, I'm want to go spend money on this or that. You know what I mean?
You don't have to escape your reality because your reality day to day is so traumatizing, right? I feel that. I feel that too. And another thing about like taking a chance on something, I don't even want to say entrepreneurial. Like, let's say you just want to take a chance on your art or like start a podcast or whatever. It doesn't have to be about money. Like, it's just funny how the universe conspires to like get you where you need to go or give you the insight or cut you a break. Like when you just like take that faithful chance on yourself, right? Like it's interesting.
It's not hope. It's not, we're not going to leap off of a fucking cliff and hope that we live. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, no. And I learned that a long time ago. Like, I mean, I obviously had a really strong conviction in what I was doing because I just had the courage to go for it because obviously I did have faith. But I do notice when I feel like I said that being backed into a corner, like, okay, well, my readings are fizzling out, this, that, or the other. And then it's like, like that brainstorming, honestly, an idea will drop and you just build it and that's your next thing. And it's like, I do feel like that's you like speaking with your spirit too. You're like, okay, well, what can I do? And then your spirit's like, well, here's a plethora of ideas, So
let me give you some ideas. Let me give you some opportunity. But like, if you're just sitting there hoping, oh, I hope that this gets better. I hope that I can pay that bill. Like that shit, it's just wild to me. That shit is doing nothing for you. Hope is doing nothing for you.
No. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like we're talking about business because that was the biggest leap of faith that we had to take. But
like I said at the beginning,
it's your health, it's your happiness, it's your children, it's your well-being. Like it's anything.
Yep. Hoping that somebody's going to come in and fucking save you and rescue you. Don't ever do that because nobody is going to come in and save you and rescue you. You have to do work. You have to do that shit yourself. And then just like when I said, if you have a family member or a friend that's an addict, you can hope all fucking day that they get off of whatever they're on. But if that person doesn't take real action towards getting off of it, what the fuck is your hope doing?
Yeah.
It's not doing shit.
No. And I feel like I would challenge everybody who's listening to this to like just take stock. And I want to say, obviously, the first place to start would be like, where are you just hoping? And where are you like confidently believing and knowing and have that like faith and conviction in what is your life? So like do an assessment.
Just set in the present moment with those words. And how do those words really make you feel? Because it could make you feel completely different than what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? It could bring up different scenarios where hope played a part in your life. Because that's what she showed me, things from my life. But for someone else, it could bring up situations where hope played a part in your life, and then it'll show you like where that hope might have steered you wrong. You know
It
what I mean?
definitely reminds me of a relationship I had in like my early 20s, and he was just the worst. I'm
And you
sure
were
he's not
hoping that
listening,
one
but
day.
I was just hoping that one day he would like see my value and like treat me right, and
No,
not
unless the
even
person is
a little bit.
actively,
It got worse.
unless that person is actively doing things to show you your worth and show you, um, what, treat you as you deserve. Great. But hoping for it and that person still treating you like a pile of dog shit, like
Yeah.
you might want to reconsider the situation that you're in.
Yeah. Or
Because your
even how
hope,
many times, just not even in relationships, but how many times have we done things hoping that we would receive the approval from our manager, our sister, our parents, our
expectation.
partner, our children? Oh, I'm just going to keep doing all these nice things for my kids, and one day they'll see how hard I worked for them. Does that fucking day ever come? I'm really not sure. Like,
Well,
you
I was thinking
have
that
to see
earlier,
that
like,
value in yourself before
mhm,
anyone else ever will. And like, that's again that internal validation, right? That internal faith that then creates it in the external, right?
right. Well, I was thinking that earlier with my kids. Like, I don't sit around and hope that they're going to be good human beings. Like, you have to actively guide these small people to be good human beings. And then, even after you actively guide them, that shit's out of your control. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can do everything under the sun to make your kid, but you can't sit there and hope that they're going to be good people. You have to actively like guide and teach and make sure that, you've done everything that you can in your control.
Yeah. This is so interesting. It's
I
like
just,
making
I
me
look
like
at the
string it
word.
together with like a million
No,
things.
I'm telling you, since I've had these epiphanies and since Pandora helped me understand the difference, because really it is like just saying, that's why I said I would suggest people sit with the two words and see how it makes you feel, because just saying the word now feels yucky. Like, I don't know if I'll ever say I hope for something ever again in my
Yeah.
life.
And you need to do that research within yourself, because something else I
Yes.
noticed like last year was it's like there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom and stories and insights and all these things. There's lots of knowledge out there, but it doesn't mean shit to you until it comes into your body and you feel
Right.
it. And you're like, holy shit, that's what that meant. So like engage with the teachings
Mm-hmm.
that you receive, not necessarily here, but I mean, that's a great place to start. But engage, don't just like logically approach it, because the logic doesn't work. You got to feel it in your bones before that like box unlocks and that teaching and that like wisdom really exists within you.
Agree. And then, like, even just working with Pandora, listening to the wisdom that she was saying and following the breadcrumbs. Like, I know that I can sit here and talk all day about something, but when you actively listen on top of that, like the teachings, like I can sit and listen to you. And I've said this to you before. There are things that I understand in my head that I can't physically put into words. And then I'll listen to you teach something and I'll be like, that's the way I fucking understand it in my head, but I can't physically put it into words. So sometimes other people need to put shit into words for you to feel that feeling
Yes, yeah,
that
I
you're
agree with
talking
that.
about.
Yeah. And translating your inner knowing is hard, because obviously with what you're talking about, I obviously
Mhm.
tried one time and it was very like less wholesome. And then I'm like, a year later, I'm seeing it different. Like sometimes it just, yeah, takes time. But
I
yeah,
know what I have in my moments because I can feel it in my body. You know what I mean? Like when I'm having my moments of, okay, I can definitely translate this, but it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you got to sit there and you can understand it. But like if I tried to explain it to you, it's not going to come out right.
no,
And I
I
think
know.
it's the same way, like you're talking, like sometimes it just has to come into your space for you to understand certain things.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Any other insights Pandora gave you or?
I think I'm with you with encouraging people, and not only just for these two words, hope and faith, like really pay attention to some of the things that come out of your mouth
Mm-hmm.
and repeat it back to yourself. I've been doing it now for the past couple of days since I've had this whole awakening with Pandora. Like I'm really paying attention to the words and the thoughts that are
Yeah.
entering my space. And just like when that projection of fear that only happened yesterday, where they were like, well, how do you feel about him going in the ocean? Like I noticed I processed that completely different than just letting, well, oh my, like, should I? Like I processed it different.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage the deprogramming of, like I said, when I looked at hope before, I never seen it as a yucky, evil thing. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sit, present moment, feel how the words make you feel.
I feel like what you're saying too is just like inhabit your body, like witness yourself in your like
Yeah,
programming, and then just like do something that's more intentional.
well,
Because a
and
lot
have
of us are just on autopilot.
yeah, and have faith that you can intentionally be in control of the
Hmm.
reality that you live in.
Yeah, exactly. And
Doesn't mean
sometimes
that
it's
that
just,
shit's not still out there happening, but are you going to experience it? Like that's how I explain it to my clients. Once you start to be on that higher vibration, you start to experience less of the shitty shit.
hmm.
And when you go out in public, you start to encounter people that are smiling back at you. You start to encounter people that aren't riding your ass, even if you're driving like Danica Patrick. Um, like you start to experience the world
Yeah,
differently because creating the reality that you want, and that reality is on a higher vibration. It's
that is so
not
true.
having a beggar come up to your window every 5 seconds at a light. It's not seeing a zombie. This is just my personal experience. It's like seeing a zombie on the corner because they are addicted to drugs. Like
Hmm.
you experience the world so differently
Yeah.
because you're manifesting that through your thoughts and your words.
And like whatever's happening within you, like whatever vibration or belief or resonance you're at,
Yeah.
you can only exist in a matching reality.
Right.
So if you're in a low state, like, or in a frustrated state, you're actually only going to bump into things that create more
Yep.
frustration. So you literally have to shift. And it is
Absolutely.
about like, regardless of even spirituality, it's about physics. Like it's
Yeah.
about like resonance and like vibration and these like something that, and I sometimes use colors. Something that is yellow can never be green. Like it just
Right.
can't. Or I guess something that is yellow can never be blue. Let's use primary colors. But like, you know what I mean? They can't be the same. So
Hmm.
it's like you just want to hang out with blue people. This is your vibe. And then it's like you're in control of what that looks like and where you want to be. And just knowing that like attracts like. It's just how it goes. So you can't be mad at the rest of the world for letting you down when it's like it started
I
within
was going
you.
to say, and even if you're hanging out with all kinds of blue people, they're going to be different shades of blue people. Like,
Yeah.
you got to also understand that your blue is different than somebody else's blue.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really think it's all in the reality that you want to live. You can definitely manifest that. You can
Yeah.
definitely, but because we're so programmed, I feel like we are stuck in this world of greed and corruption. And but I
Hmm.
swear we can change it. We're in control. I
Yeah,
swear we can.
I agree. Ah, well, what a fun experiment and like a great
Yes.
reminder because I definitely was aware of like pieces of these things, but I wasn't like tying it together in this one really lovely package. So that's perfect. Well, thanks so much for sharing this because I was just like, wow, this is immediately like light and empowering. And I feel like I can just do anything today instead of like, I have a big day ahead and I'm like, how am I going to get through this? And now I'm like, it's going to be easy. I'm going to get through
I
it
have
no
faith.
problem.
I
Like,
choose to believe.
exactly.
Thank you for letting me share it because I don't know. Like when I started spilling it out to you, I was like, I'm so sorry for the rant. but I'm like, holy shit. Like I've never, and if I can do it with the word hope, it's like, how many other fucking words are out there that I'm using that don't feel good to me, that don't feel good to my soul?
Yeah.
So
And what a part of your
be,
magic, right? What a part of your magic too is to be able to use the language, use words, use and like have it like texture and substance and like show people that
that's
it
what
is
it
a part of your
feels
like
like.
spell casting, right?
That's so crazy you said texture, because like when I keep saying I feel, like it does feel like there's a smell and there's a texture, and like that's how big this was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's like, how many other big moments can other people have like this if they just sit there and allow
Mm-hmm.
the teachings to come? Or if they sit there and allow their own inner wisdom
Yeah. To
speak
emerge.
instead of like program yourself with your own inner wisdom instead of allowing the environment and world around you to program you. Could you imagine if we did that
That's
shit?
profound.
If
Yeah.
we
That's
programmed
profound.
ourselves instead of allowing everything else to program us?
Yeah.
We'd be out here fucking killing it.
Yeah. I agree. I completely agree. And I think that's definitely what the invitation is, like why this message exists now or why this awareness is coming through. It's like be aware of your programming and do
Yeah.
something different, right?
Yep.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm sure I'll have you on
Thank
here
you,
more
Kayla.
times because there's so many like great epiphanies that come through our conversations. So thank you so much. And Rachel's details will be in the description, the show description.
Yeah.
So if you want to follow her, get a hold of her, do a reading. She's also an artist. Check
And
her
if you
out.
want to have conversations, I'm on Instagram at Records with Rachel. Because I like a good conversation.
Yes. Yeah. Follow her, reach out because she does have lots of great insights. I'll tell you that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
That's
And
fun. Thank you, Kayla.
you are very welcome.